Week 31, day 5, evaluation. Now, here's the simplest one that you can have this week. You're supposed to be a role model for being decisive. Amen? Did you decide this week to accomplish your goals? You found out this week you can't say can't. Henry Ford taught you that anything's possible. You can't blame it on where you are. The diamond mine taught you that. Did you decide to accomplish your goals? Are you decisive? What do you think this one character quality may be the one that's the most needed in the world today? Decisive? We're going through a COVID crisis at this time. And there's nobody willing to accept the responsibility to make decisions. The TEA says, we're going to leave it up to the school district. Instead of sitting down with quality, educated health people and saying, here's what's the best thing for y'all to do. They're not going to make a decision. They lack the quality of being decisive. It's the same thing. How many times have you heard that a coach let a team vote? We caught Joe Bill out drinking beer Saturday night, and he was drunk at this field party out there and all that. So we're going to let the team decide. We're going to let the team vote on it. You know why the team votes on it? Because the coach lacks the quality of decisive. Do you know why the team votes on captains? Well, if I pick those guys to be captain, Joe Bill's dad sure is going to be mad at me. I skirted that issue because we didn't have captains. The guys that went out and flipped the coin every week, that was the best offensive, defensive, and kicking game player from last week. For the first game, we had the scrimmage. And whoever was the best offensive player, performance, I don't care if he was a sophomore, junior, senior, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Baptist, Mormon, Catholic, it didn't matter. How did he perform? So it's an easy decision on my part. How do you pick the most valuable player on your team? Well, we get our coaches together and we vote. We let our players decide who the most valuable player on the team is. That's when you have head coaches that lack the ability to make decisions. See, the most valuable player on offense for us was the guy that had the most positive points during this. We graded every film. And whoever had the most positive points for that season was the MVP on offense. Nobody had to guess who's going to be the MVP. That was the simplest. We didn't vote for anything. The more your team is voting, the less decisive you are. And you better be decisive, because I'm going to tell you something. When you call that play on 4th and 1 or the 2-point play, it better not be, how about if we, we think we ought to go. I told you about the team, had to go for 2 and got a delay of game penalty. The quality that the head coach lacked, being decisive. You got to make decisions. You got to step up and make decisions. It's not one of these things about, let's let the team decide. Let's let the school district decide. Let's let somebody else decide. I'm the president of the United States, so I'm going to let the governors decide. Wait a minute. That's why we elected you president. That's why you're the head of the TEA. We expect you to make those decisions. We want decisions made. If I'm a football player and I'm playing for somebody, I want you to make the best decision possible. I want you to be decisive. I don't want you to meander around and say, well, I don't know what we're going to do in the off season. It is going to be bang, 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 bang. You sit down and you've got a plan and you're very decisive. When you're decisive, you're going to build confidence. When von Steuben took over the Army in 1777 and trained those guys at Valley Forge, he was very decisive. That was a quality that he had. He didn't say, I think we're going to do this. Henry Ford was decisive when he said, we're going to build a V8 engine. See, you've got to be a decisive person if you're ever going to be successful and be able to sleep well at night. If you work all weekend and you work every day to make the right decision, and then you make the decision, whether it's a success or failure, you've done everything you could to make it a success. When you don't make a decision, it's when you sit and second guess yourself forever. Be decisive. Did you decide to get your goals done this week? Are you a role model for being decisive? Did you say, I'm going to get these done? And somebody says, you can't do that. And you say, can't is not a word in my vocabulary. Can't doesn't exist. I can do the impossible. Page 171, developingcharacter.org, 31st quality. I hope you went through the review and wrote all those down. The other thing I would ask you to do, take those 31 qualities that we've covered. Write down those 31 qualities right now. Go back and look them up. And beside them, a number 1 to 10. 10 being Abraham Lincoln on honesty. Jackie Robinson on persistence. And write down where you are. Are you a 1? Are you a 5? Are you a 10? Rate yourself. You don't need to ask your coach or your teacher. You don't need to ask your wife or your mom or your dad. You know where you are. On responsibility, do you accept responsibility for who you are, where you are, and what you are? If you do, put down a 10. Now, you can't put down a 10 if you don't accept responsibility for doing these things that we're doing. Grade yourself on those 31. And let's see if we can't get better. Amen. Make it a great weekend.